What's up, guys? Welcome back into the Ballroom Podcast. This is episode 10. I'm your host, Rohan and Arav, and as always, I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arav. And today we're joined by a special guest. He's a three-sport athlete from Crystal Springs, one of our good friends, and a basketball savant himself, Ryan Sullivan. Guys, how's it going?
I'm good, Rohan. Super excited to have Ryan here on our podcast. And also super excited to talk about the game for us. Ryan, how's it going?
What's happening, boys? Great to be on the podcast with you guys. I've been watching the last few ones on YouTube. Some great content discussing the NBA playoffs. So excited to be here.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Let's do it. Should we get straight into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with our first game of the game fours. We had Suns Mavericks. The Mavericks won this one 111-101. And they now tied the series at 2 apiece. And the Mavs get a must-win game at home to avoid going down 3-1. But I think in this game, like we all know, like this game started out super chippy from the start. There was a lot of fouls, a lot of flopping. What do you guys think of how the game started with Luka and CP and all that stuff?
Ryan, what do you think about it? What do you think about the start of this game?
Well, I just think I know Devin Booker was talking about it at the end of the post game. Like there were a bunch of unnecessary texts in this game. I think Doncic picked one up. And then Booker, I think, got one as well. And then you also factor in like the banter between Jay Crowder and Luka Doncic that's been going on in this series. Luka is obviously way more valuable to his team. And then I think Jason Kidd was talking about it too after the game, was like CP3 has been manipulating, exploiting the officials for his whole career. And kind of the Mavs were doing that in this one and really use that to their advantage to get Chris Paul out of the game with 6 fouls.
For sure.
But
I mean, amid all of that stuff, all the chippiness, I think the Mavs just outplayed the Suns in this game. I mean, they played great team basketball. They had 6 guys in double figures. They just shot the lights out of the ball, especially in the first half. It felt like they didn't miss. They went 20 of 44 from 3. Dorian Finney-Smith just couldn't miss in this game.
Lights out
shooter, 24 points, 8 of 12 from 3. Same with Davis Bertans. He was 4 of 6 from 3 in this one. He's just a laser. And even though Luka shot awfully from this game, he was 1 of 10 from 3, shot 9 of 25 from the field. He still controlled this game with his playmaking and his facilitating. He still ended up with 26 points, 11 assists, and 7 boards. And also Jalen Brunson with a big 17. So it was just a collective effort from the Mavs, and I thought on offense they just dominated. They took care of business amid all the stuff that was going on with the Suns, who were in a lot of foul trouble. But yeah, it was a great game to watch, and seeing all those threes go down, that was exciting basketball.
Yeah, and going back to Jalen Brunson and the chippiness, I remember in game 1 or 2, Booker blocked Brunson and said. He told Brunson like he's soft or like what's wrong with you. Then Brunson just like suns him in this game. Like he drives and Booker gets sent to the ground and Brunson makes the layup. And I feel like that Brunson is showing the Suns and Booker that he is him. He's that guy. He can be the really good second scoring option for the Mavericks and help them prevail in this series, and they're right up there with the Suns.
Yeah, I think a big part of this game as well was Reggie Bullock. I mean, he only had 7 points, doesn't really scream at you in the stat sheet, but I think he had a lot of great defense on the Suns backcourt, which is really their way of scoring. And then as you guys mentioned, like the 3-point barrage. I mean, in the first 2 games, it seemed like all of the other players other than Luka Doncic couldn't do anything, but in this little 2 games in Dallas, I mean, they've been hitting on all cylinders. And just something to note is like the Suns have the second best player on defense. Well, according to the Defensive Player of the Year voting, and Mikal Bridges. And he hasn't been doing much to really stifle this Mavericks attack. So I think that's also something that may be underlooked here.
Yeah. But even with what like Bridges is doing on Luka, like even like Monty Williams, like in the post game, you can throw anyone at Luka. You can throw Jay Crowder at Luka. You can throw all their wing defenders that the Suns have. Like, there's really no stopping him. And if he's not scoring the ball, he's getting other people involved. Like in this game, pretty much everyone was eating. Everyone was getting good looks from 3. So, I mean, everything Mikal Bridges did on the defensive end throughout the regular season, and even in the first round, like it kind of gets thrown out of the window when you're guarding one of the best players, all around players on offense in Luka Doncic. It's just like guarding like LeBron. There's no stop for him. But the best you can do is contain him, make it difficult. Same with like KD and all those guys. Like, so Luka's on that tier. Like we saw today, he didn't shoot well, but I mean, he was still controlled the game, and it's his passing that makes him so dangerous as well. He gets everyone involved and gets good looks. So, but I think we can look at the Suns now. Obviously, we know they were killed by fouls in this game. They had 4 starters with 4 more fouls, and then obviously CP3, who fouled out in just 23 minutes in this game. He had 4 fouls in the first half, and he ended with just 5 points, 7 assists, and 5 boards. But like all his fouls, like it was just a bunch of like ticky-tack fouls. Like especially that that foul, that offensive foul that he had with Jalen Brunson, like on that inbound on the backcourt. Like that was just a dumb foul. He was just like waiting for Brunson on his back and kind of shoved him there. And they called an offensive foul. And then like that last foul, that 6th foul on Brunson, on that putback layup that Brunson was doing in the 4th quarter. Like that's just, it was an inexcusable foul. She should have kept his hands down. And he knew probably, and the Suns knew that, I mean, it was a foul. It was just a weak foul. And in that moment, you got to be more disciplined. And CP3 really let his team down in this one. He wasn't available. And it was a second straight poor game in Dallas, going along with game 3. He just needs to show up for them, and let alone just be on the court, because when he's not on the court, it's a completely different Suns team. They don't really have that same facilitating. Booker, I mean, he can take over the point guard role, but I mean, it's better when he's in that, secondary scoring option, which he was in this game, but not having CP still made it difficult for them down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, Booker was solid this game. He had 35 points and 7 assists, but like you said, CP was kind of like a no-show in this game. Only 5 points, fouled out early. A lot of many guys on the Suns team were also no-shows. Bridges was kind of a no-show. He only had 6 points on 3 of 9 shooting. I mean, for the Mavericks have proved that they're right with the Suns and they could easily win this series. So Bridges and other guys definitely need to step up on offense to help the Suns win, because they definitely need them, and they're crucial. DeAndre Ayton didn't dominate like he should have. Even with the Mavericks playing small, he only had 14 points and 11 rebounds. I feel like it's obvious that he needs to just exploit the mismatch in the paint and dominate down low, especially like when he's on like guys like Dwight Powell and stuff. And I feel like the Suns just played one of their worst games in game 4, and game 3 was also, like I said in episode 9, it was their lowest scoring game of the season. So they played 2 of their worst games here in Dallas, but they still have 2 of the next 3 at home if they can push it to 7. But hopefully they can win. Like they're obviously going to try to win in 6 and only have 1 game at home. But Ryan, what do you think about that incident with Chris Paul's family?
Yeah, I definitely think that is a bad look for the NBA and certainly like Dallas fans. You can say it's like a one-off, but a lot of this stuff has been happening just in different sporting events, like around the world, really, with like people rushing the floor and things like that, and people getting attacked. Yeah. So I really just think it's a bad look for the league. I think Kenny the Jet Smith was talking about it on Inside the NBA, that the fan was inebriated. So that certainly didn't help. And he was kind of like poking and prodding at Chris Paul's mom the entire night. And then inevitably that happened, where it gets out of hand and then he leaves the arena. So just don't think it's a good look for the NBA. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think like stuff like this has been happening like ever since fans were back in arenas. Like obviously they were gone for COVID, but like the stuff's been going on, like, and it feels like it's been at a higher rate than it was before. And I mean, especially like we saw earlier, like in the Timberwolves games and stuff, like fans rushing the court, but like altercations like this and stuff we've seen more, like with Kyrie and stuff, like with the fans in Boston, with Draymond and the fans in Memphis. Like fans are just, and also KD is always John at fans who are courtside. So yeah, I mean, there's always just fan altercations, and some of them are taking it a little too far. And obviously the players who are, representing the NBA are not, the NBA doesn't tolerate them sort of disrespecting fans, but at the same time, they're the ones being disrespected. So that, I mean, I feel like they should get a little bit of leeway with what they're having to go through, especially when you're like talking about someone's family. Like Chris Paul's family should not have to go through that. His mom shouldn't have to go through that, especially on Mother's Day. So I mean, it's just fans like that, like they shouldn't be tolerated, and they just need to do better.
No, exactly. It's unacceptable. And Chris Paul tweeted after the game that the NBA they fine players for having altercations with fans, but they don't give as harsh of punishments for fans, which they need to do, or just like not fine
Yeah,
players like as much money, or it's just like it's not fair for the players, I feel like, and it's unacceptable that this happened with Chris Paul's family. It's unacceptable that that the Minnesota what the fans in Minnesota did with gluing themselves to the court and
that one's a little bit different. That
all
was
that
just like
it's just
a
like
little
it's
bit
just weird.
bizarre.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's just
weird, but
bizarre.
also just like I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah,
Fans
yeah,
cheering at Draymond Green for getting hurt, for getting
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Well, we
think it's
got
also like tough for Chris Paul because I mean, you guys were talking about on the podcast a couple episodes ago about how Chris Paul may be the best fourth quarter player we've ever seen, and now just 5 points and he's fouling out, and now he's dealing with this off the court, and the Suns going down to back to 2-2 after they were up 2-0. I mean, it's certainly a lot of pressure on him that is somewhat like not expected and not needed at all.
for sure. I mean, we got a 2-2 series now, guys. What are you
Yeah.
guys looking at in these next couple games? Who do you guys think is kind of has the edge going into game 5? And who do you guys think is gonna pull away with this series?
I mean, we've got a series now. It was two
Yeah,
zero, and now it's 2-2. I think right now Dallas winning the last two games, they have a lot of momentum right now, but they definitely have like the most momentum. We're going game 5 is in Phoenix, so Phoenix is going back home, and obviously we saw what they did in games 1 and 2 at home. They kind of dominated the Mavericks, so it's going to be interesting. I'm super excited, looking forward to it. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially when you consider the finals last year, the Suns had the home court advantage, won the first two, then the Bucks won the next four. I think this one going back to Phoenix, I think it's probably a game, must-win game for the
yeah.
Suns, just considering that they lost to in Dallas. So I think they probably will get it done. I think they have a better coach in Monty Williams and overall better players. I mean, they're a 64-win team. So I think they need to get it done in game 5. I think they will, but as Arav said, it's a great series now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but let's not like. There's definitely a lot of pressure on the Suns now. I think on the or on the ESPN broadcast, they were talking about how Chris Paul has blown 4 2-0 leads in his career, and we've seen like he has kind of like obviously his playoff legacy is not cemented yet without a championship. So
Exactly.
and blowing another 2-0 lead sort of in this series and in this fashion, I mean, it could prove to be ugly. So, but I mean, the Suns are the number 1 overall seed for a reason, and they were 2-2 in the last series as well. So, I don't know. I think we have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to pull it out. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. In game 5, we'll definitely have a lot in store, and we'll definitely be telling in who's going to pull away with the series.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Should we move on to our next game now?
Yeah.
All right,
Let's do it.
so next we got the Miami Heat at the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers won this game 116-108, and now they tied the series 2-2, also after being down 2-0. Um just like the Mavericks. And for the Sixers, we got throwback Harden. What do you guys think about that? He hit some crazy step back threes, vintage step back threes in the fourth quarter, 16 points in the fourth and 31 points in total, 9 assists as well. What do you guys think? Can he come back to his true form or his old form, his vintage form, his that Houston Harden that we saw before? Can he come back to that in this series and for the rest of the playoffs?
Well, I don't really think that he'll come back to that, but I also don't think that's what Philly needs at this point. Like it's clear that since Embiid's come back, he's the number 1 option. And I also think Tyrese Maxey is kind of like that two-way player, whereas like Harden's like a 2B right now. So I think Harden can have his moments, and they certainly needed it from in this game because this was a close game in the fourth quarter. It was only like a 2-possession game, even with how bad the Heat were shooting at that point. But I think this was great for James Harden. You know, the broadcasters were making a big deal out of how Harden was performing really in the first half in the games in this series, but in the fourth quarter, the faucet just turned off. He wasn't able to do anything. He was kind of fatigued, but he really managed that well in this game, ending with 31.
Yeah, I mean, we all love to see Harden when he's kind of in this form, and we
Yeah,
really haven't seen him score like this in it feels like months. Like Houston Harden was like, I think we sort of took that for granted, sort of like that level of
definitely.
scoring that
Yeah,
he
definitely.
produced like on a nightly basis. Like he was averaging 36 like throughout a season, which is just like I don't think we've ever seen that in our lifetime. So I mean, we know what Harden's capable of, and if he's able to give like the Sixers just like this, like even like every other game, or just like a close version of this on a nightly basis, like this team is super dangerous, and Harden just brings out a different dynamic. The way he was fired up in this one, especially in that fourth quarter, just hitting timely buckets and sort of bringing them home. What it does is it also takes the burden off of Joel Embiid, who's obviously banged up, Tyrese Maxey, who's still young, but he's obviously proven to be an amazing player. And this is the guy that they traded for to sort of bring them home in the playoffs, to sort of have that second star next to Embiid. So I mean, this is just sort of a glimpse into what this team's potential is, with Harden playing at this level, and I think the Sixers are proven to be a serious threat in this series now. And
Yeah,
making it two
exactly.
two, it's anybody's series.
Yeah, exactly. And in this game, also, although Harden had a monster game, it wasn't just him. Like all their starters had double figures. Shows that everyone just came to play today. Maxey had 18. Danny Green had 11 points, finding his rhythm again, which is good to see. He went 3 of 4 from 3-point line. Tobias Harris at 13. So everyone double figures. Embiid at 24 points, 11 rebounds. And then they moved the ball super well too. They were finding the right guy. 25 assists. But one negative thing in this game, the Sixers, their turnover count, they had 17 turnovers. Harden had 6 of them. So they need to, I feel like they just need to cut that down, because eventually Miami is going to start shooting the ball better. They're going to turn it up on offense. They're not going to shoot under 25% from 3 like every game in the rest of the series or the rest of the playoffs. So Philly is going to need to work on that turnover count, and because they need to play, the Heat are going to probably bring it next game and for the rest of the series. So they need to play more tighter.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The turnovers are definitely out of hand for the Sixers. And I'm not really sure how much of the like defensive end is so much so the 76ers credit as it is like the Heat are just missing shots because they are remarkably cold. Like talk about
Yeah.
one of the best shooting teams in the NBA in like the regular season. And now in the playoffs in game 3 and 4, they just can't make anything from three, like shooting 20%. And I think it does also reflect on Eric Spoelstra. He's known as like one of the best NBA coaches, but right now he has Duncan Robinson like sitting on the bench getting DMPs when this team, like I'm just watching Strus and Vincent just hucking up shots, not
Yeah.
making anything. Tyler Hero is usually reliable from the 3-point line, but he can't really make anything either.
And they're
Deep coaching staff.
Yeah, and like Duncan Robinson getting those DNPs, they're paying him 90 million a year as well. So I feel like, I don't know. You're right, Eric's, like you said, Eric Spoelstra. There's although he's like known as one of the best one of the best playoff coaches of all time. I feel like he definitely needs to make some adjustments to better their shooting, because they can't, 20% from three is not going to cut it, but and they can't expect to win games shooting like this. But they're a 1 seed for a reason. Like I've constantly been saying, they're gonna, I feel like there's going to be a switching point where they're going to turn up their shooting, but um, I feel like the Heat just need to make some major adjustments, especially since Embiid hasn't even played like his best self yet after his injury. And other guys other than Jimmy Butler need to step up as well. Like Butler can't just like keep carrying every night. His back must be kind of hurting from now. He's
I
just
mean,
like,
yeah,
it just can't be him on a nightly basis. He had 40 points this game, 6 assists. He was doing everything. 17 points in the third quarter. Adebayo had a good game. 21 points on 9 and 12 shooting, but they didn't get any scoring besides that.
yeah, I think the shooting is basically the name of the game for the Heat in this one. Like Butler he's gonna get his buckets. And the Heat and the Heat were still in this game. Like it was pretty close down the stretch. They gave themselves a chance to win. It was just a difference of what, 3 3-pointers in this game. They lost by
Yeah.
8.
Mhm.
So they're basically shooting like 20% from three in the last two games. And that they've only lost by like, 8 or 10 points in the last two games. So it's basically all they need is a couple more threes in each game and they're back in the series, or back in these games. So, I mean, I think offensively, like they're Jimmy Butler's doing what he does and doing what he has to do, as he should be as their leading scorer and as their superstar. I think Tyler Hero's off game was a big reason why their offense wasn't going. And they just need. I think Duncan Robinson will probably unlock them on the three ball, but with Eric Spoelstra, what we probably know is he has a reason for why he's not playing Duncan Robinson, and that's because of his defense, most likely. He trusts Gabe Vincent and Max Strus more on the defensive end, thinking that they can give him the same production on the three ball. So, I mean, we'll see if he brings them out, but I think right now, like this is the game plan they rolled out in the first two games, and the only thing that's changed in games 3 and 4 is Embiid came back. And we've seen what that's unlocked for the Sixers. It's gotten everyone else involved. Their offense is clicking at a higher level. So I think that's basically the difference of it. Embiid made all the difference, and this is basically the series we thought it would be going into the series when Embiid was out the first two games.
Yeah, and Game 5 in Miami is going to look a lot more different than games 1 and 2 because of Embiid's return, obviously. So, very much looking forward to that. It's going to be an interesting one. Yeah.
Should we look at the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's look at Celtics Bucks. Celtics won this one 116-108 and tied the series at 2 apiece. And the Celtics in this one came back from being down 7 points going into the fourth quarter, to outscore the Bucks 43-28 in the fourth. Horford and Tatum combined for 28 points in the fourth. They went on a 14-2 run on their own, to put them up 10 with 3.5 minutes left. They both went for 30 in this game. What were your guys' thoughts on Horford and Tatum in this one?
Well, I mean, when I was watching the game, Horford just like he couldn't miss from three. He was getting to his spots in the paint as well. That 1-and-1 that he had that bounced where he fell and it bounced off the rim a couple times. He just got to a spot. Then he made one three from the wing, which was just straight cash. And then he had a dunk over Giannis, and where Giannis went to the ground and just like got the whole team, gave the whole team a massive energy boost, gave himself an energy boost, and the Celtics just wanted it this game. Horford wanted it, Tatum wanted it. And they were hungry and they deserved this win.
Yeah, and I think like Arav said, the Horford and one dunk was great. It was just great entertainment watching Giannis and Al Horford go at it, because Giannis is obviously the front runner, back-to-back MVP, NBA champion, and Al Horford's kind of getting up there. He was an all-star at some point in his career, but now most people don't look at him as like that type of player, but he really put the Celtics on his back in like the third and early fourth quarter in this game, like scoring 30 points. And he even had that like little punch at Giannis, which was crazy. He
got that like elbow was lethal.
That.
Yeah.
And I also think that like Tatum also had 30, and I think his 30 points may have been more impactful because he really closed up the game. He really knew that the Celtics could not drop this one and go down 3-1. And he made some sick shots as well.
That one dagger pull up three was just like it put a dagger into the Celtics' hearts, and
that layup, like where he was like parallel.
Oh yeah, the Bucks. My bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like Horford was probably like their MVP in this one, just because like what he did in the fourth quarter, his energy, his aggressiveness. Obviously with that dunk, which was probably revenge for Giannis earlier in the game, who got that dunk on him and then stared him down and got a tech for taunting. So the only difference was Horford got that elbow in, which was lethal. But yeah, I mean Tatum, like obviously his pull up three, he got that crazy like falling down layup, which was insane. He was like halfway to the ground and just flipped it in. So I mean, they obviously were both like. They brought the game home. And as you guys said, like this game was a must win for the Celtics, because going down 3-1, it's an uphill battle from there, and to tie it up 2 apiece and for them to have now 2 of the next 3 games at home, They really put themselves in a good position, and yeah, I mean, the series now it's probably in their palms right now, but it's still anybody's series.
Yeah, and Marcus Smart was also huge for the Celtics, 18 points and 8 assists, and was just playing bully ball in the paint at the end in crunch time on the Bucks guards, mostly on George Hill, but even on Drew Holiday. And on defense, he played physical. He drew 2 charges at the end, which were huge. He drew that one on Giannis, which kind of like kind of sealed the game for them. And then as a team, they held the Bucks just 41% shooting. It shows they played great defense. And as you said, Rohan, this was a huge win. No, like, obviously, no team wants to go down 3-1. So making 3-1 and 2-2 is just such a big difference in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then going to like the Bucks side of things, Giannis had an incredible game, like 34, 18, and 5. Not remarkably efficient. He did shoot like 32 field goals, but I think the least valuable player in this one for the Bucks was definitely Drew Holiday. Just looking at his stat line, 5 of 22, for only 16 points, and then his plus minus was minus 23. And it just seemed like they were kind of picking on him on when he was on the defensive end. They were always scoring a lot of buckets on him. So I think with Chris Middleton out, he's definitely the Bucks' second most reliable player. So even though he finishes with 16 in this one, I think he's got to play a lot better. And overall, just being the point guard for this team, I think the Bucks need more ball movement on the offensive end. It's really just only Giannis, and then if it's late in the shot clock, they kick it out for a 3-point shooter who, in this game, they couldn't get a lot of threes. So I just think Drew Holiday needs to play a lot better for this Bucks team if they want to win.
Yeah, and for the Bucks also, like, they had multiple double digit leads in the fourth quarter or throughout the whole game. They were in a position to win. They were up 7 going to the fourth, and I feel like just allowing 43 points in the fourth quarter in a game 4 is just like kind of unacceptable. They couldn't get stops down the stretch. Horford and Tatum were just like torching them on every single possession. And Marcus Smart too in this stretch from the paint.
Yeah, and going back to what Ryan was saying, like, it was basically just Drew Holiday and Giannis in the ISO, and that basically just showed like how much the Bucks really needed Middleton in this one, especially down the stretch. Like, for him, like, he's basically their shot maker and their shot creator down the stretch. He can get you a bucket in ISO. Like, Giannis isn't like known to like get you a bucket, like, or like when the paint's clogged, like he will just try to drive in, and if he doesn't have anything, he'll kick it out. And obviously Drew Holiday was broken this one, so he couldn't really buy a bucket. So Chris Middleton would have like settled down their offense and would have given them better looks and gotten them some clutch buckets down the stretch. But I think we saw Giannis was pretty gassed in this one, especially down the stretch. Like, him having to do everything on offense and defense is going to take his toll. He played 41 minutes in this game. He's having to score. He's having to facilitate. He's having to guard the best Celtics players with Tatum and Horford just going off on offense. Like, it's a tough task for Giannis. But we know like he's not gonna back down from it. He's gonna keep going, and we don't expect him to back down in game 5.
Yeah, Giannis is definitely going to bring it in game 5. But in this game, they were in a position to win. I feel like they definitely should have won this game, and it's like it's a tough loss at home. They had the opportunity to go up 3-1. But they just have to like forget about it, bounce back. They can't do anything about it now. So they need to bounce back in game 5. But this is definitely gutting for them as they could taste the 3-1 lead. They were like I said, they were in a position to win, but they just couldn't pull it off. So, but they just need to um keep composed and let it go and just like start freshly for game 5.
Yeah, for sure. All right, should we move on to the last game?
Yeah, let's do it. Finally, we got the Grizzlies at Warriors. This one was an interesting one, as you guys would agree. The Warriors won this game 101-98, and now the Warriors lead the series 3-1. For the Warriors, this is definitely one of their worst performances. They bad shooting combined with lots of turnovers. They shot 24.3% from the perimeter, and they missed their first 15 threes, which is very uncharacteristic of them. But I feel like that's bound to happen. Every team is going to have an off game, but and then they also shot under 40% in the first half. They had 16 turnovers as well, most of them coming in the first half. So it was just a really bad first half. But fortunately for them, they were able to bring it together in the second half and put up a better performance.
Yeah, and I think an underrated piece of this game was Otto Porter coming off
Yeah,
the
for
bench,
sure.
knocking down 4 threes. I think they mentioned it on the broadcast a couple of nights ago. Like they said he was like a top 5 player in the league in terms of 3-point shooting percentage back in his days in Washington. And I didn't really know that for this team. He hadn't been getting a lot of minutes and knocking down a lot of shots. He obviously had that like great fourth quarter against the Suns on Christmas Day, which kind of iced that game. But in this one, going 4 for 6 from 3, getting 12 points was very valuable when all of the other members of the Warriors couldn't really shoot at all. I mean, Curry ends up with 32 points, but it wasn't very productive. He shot 10 of 25, and he did knock down a few free throws at the end that was clutch, but he didn't play as well as he can. And then Klay Thompson coming off of like a great game 3, going 0 of 7 for 3 was not ideal. And Wiggins, as usual, pretty good from him, 17 points, and he's just great in terms of like the offensive rebounding. 5 offensive rebounds for him was pretty good. And then Poole with 14 was decent. But really, when it came down the stretch for this game, I was really just expecting the Warriors to hit a couple of shots here at the end of the game, and they couldn't really do it. It seemed like they didn't even want to step on the Grizzlies' throat. They were kind of just going through the motions. And they didn't really knock down a big shot at the end of this game. They were kind of lucked out that the Grizzlies played some hero ball, missed some big shots, and that they could knock down some free throws at the end of the game. But I definitely think they stole this game. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA, he was talking about like how he felt the Warriors were like kind of just going through the motions because like the
mhm,
Grizzlies didn't have Ja and they felt like the Grizzlies weren't going to be able to pull out the game. I actually thought like the Warriors were like kind of under pressure a little bit in this game. They were kind of under the gun.
yeah,
They were
exactly.
expected to win this game, and if they didn't win this game, like they were going to put themselves in a tricky situation going to Memphis for Game 5. So I felt like early on, like when they weren't hitting shots, like they were kind of like frazzled a little bit. They were taking a lot of threes, even though they were like 0 for 15 at one point, I think. Um, and they weren't getting good looks. They were making bad passes. They racked up the turnovers in the first half, and they really were just disorganized. And so I think in the fourth quarter, I think that's when they really started to organize their offense just a little bit better. And they started to be a little bit more disciplined on defense. Obviously, the Grizzlies' poor shot selection at the end gave them a good boost and gave them an advantage at the end. But yeah, I mean, I think the Warriors, yeah, they haven't been really in these situations in like 3 years. They started off shooting poorly, and but I think once they kind of settled into it a little bit and didn't start to like force too many threes, and started to like pass the ball a little bit and get some like fouls down low and sort of ease their way into their offense. I think that's kind of what changed the game for them and sort of helped them pull it out.
Yeah, definitely. And Rohan, like I think your earlier point was spot on about the pressure. Because if they lost this game, especially the Grizzlies they didn't have their best player in John Morant. If they lost this game, it would have put them in a really bad position going to Memphis in a 2-2 series with Memphis getting John Morant back probably for game 5. So it would have just put them in a pretty bad position. So it was very fortunate for them to steal this game and pull this one off. And they definitely would not have liked to have the series be tied. And also great job on Mike Brown's part to take over for Steve Kerr after his positive COVID-19 test
For sure.
and on such short notice. I think the commentators of the game said he was on his way to the arena when they to Chase Center when they informed him about that. So he had such short notice, and also congrats to him on getting the Kings head coaching job as well.
Yeah. At halftime, like they were down by like 3, and like the Warriors had only scored 38 points. And they had like this breaking news segment, and Chuck was like, if Mike Brown doesn't win this game, Sacramento's gonna fire him
Yeah, I saw that.
before
Yeah,
he's even coached a
no,
game.
I saw that. Yeah, you see that,
Yeah.
Ryan?
No, I didn't see that, but I saw the post game interview where Steph was like, "Oh, I thought we got
Yeah,
traded to the
yeah,
Kings." That was kind of funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
They
that
were
too.
cracking some good jokes at Mike Brown.
Yeah. I mean, for the going to the Grizzlies, personally, I feel like their defense, like without Jaw, their defense seemed like much better. But like obviously they didn't have the offensive firepower that Jaw brings. But um, Yeah, Tyus Jones, he came to play it. He went 8 of 18 from the field, 19 points. And Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson were tough for the Warriors to handle in the paint. Adams 5 for 9 from the field, 10 points and 15 rebounds. Luckily for the Warriors though, Jackson, he got to spots pretty easily, but he missed some easy floaters and layups. So the Warriors, I feel like the Warriors got a little lucky on that. Um, and he also took some questionable shots as well. And he went 7 to 21 from the field. And Dylan Brooks coming off a suspension, maybe they shouldn't have suspended him because it looks like he's playing for the Warriors. 5 and 19 from the field, and only 12 points. But Kyle Anderson had a solid game, 7 and 8 from the field, 8 rebounds and 17 points. Did you guys see that circus layup he had off the
Yeah.
backboard that he banked? Yeah.
Yeah.
That I don't know how he made that.
Also,
But
Desmond Bane's shot at the end of the third
yeah,
quarter.
no, the Grizzlies can't miss a half court shot. Dylan Brooks also made one at the end of the game.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
buzzer beaters are crazy. Like Jaw in game 3
Ja.
at halftime. Like they're just getting
Yeah.
so lucky with those.
Yeah, but one big thing about Kyle Anderson is that he couldn't really hit a free throw. He went 2 of 7 from the line, and this game was a 3-point game. So if he hit his free throws, then Grizzlies most likely would have won this game. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Ara mentioned, I think like Taylor Jenkins starting both Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson was big for them because
Yeah.
I've been saying like the only way you can beat this Warriors team as presently constructed is exploiting them down low, which obviously the Nuggets couldn't really do because all they had was Jokic. But even Boogie Cousins was giving them good minutes down low. And then you had Steven Adams, who I think was out with COVID for the first 2 games, but now they put him in the starting lineup. He gave them good minutes, but I think Jaren Jackson, he was great in the first game, like knocking out all those threes, but I would like it more as a Memphis fan if he would like attack more in the paint. Like Ara was saying, he missed a lot of inside shots, none bigger than when I think it was like a 1-point game late in the game, and then Draymond was D'ing him up, and then he missed a shot, and then the Warriors go on to win the game, make some free throws.
Yeah.
And also he goes 0 of 7 for 3. Like you just can't be doing that in the playoffs and expecting to win.
And then his shot selection as well, like we were talking about earlier, especially on that last 3 that Draymond blocked, he just did not need to take that, because first of all, it was really deep. There were 3 Warriors next to him, and there was 15 seconds left on the clock or something like that. So he felt like he could have either gotten a better look, passed the ball, not shoot it over 3 guys, or like tried to get an easy 2 and make the Warriors and play the free throw game.
Yeah. I mean, the Warriors definitely got away with one, like Ryan said. Like this was a game that the Grizzlies should have won. Like especially when you're without Ja, and you're up 3 with a minute left or 2 minutes left in this game. Like that, this is a game you got to close out. They were outplaying the Warriors for 45 minutes in this game. So I mean, to be able to get this game and sort of go to Memphis 2 apiece, like without Ja, hopefully Ja comes back. Like they would have put themselves in such a good position, and it was just a few like bad shots down the stretch, a few like mishaps on defense, a couple fouls that were a bit errant. So I think the Warriors kind of solidified themselves in this series. Now they obviously have the edge, and we'll look to close it out in one of these next couple games. But yeah, I mean the series, we all obviously wanted Ja to play in this game because that would have just made it so much more exciting. Although this game was so exciting in and of itself, but hopefully Ja comes back because we want these Grizzlies to sort of put up a fight and keep this series interesting.
Yeah, one thing for game 5, I mean, if they can, I feel like their defensive intensity this game was really good. Like they didn't let the Warriors get great looks, especially from inside the paint. It forced them to keep shooting threes, and which were obviously some were open, but a lot of them were contested as well, and they just didn't fall. So the Warriors, especially in the first half, the Grizzlies didn't let the Warriors get the best of looks.
Yeah, and I think going into game 5 now, whether or not the Memphis Grizzlies have Ja back, going back into the grindhouse, I mean, the Warriors aren't going to get away with playing like this, having 15 turnovers and making no threes. So I think that the Warriors have to play a lot better if they want to close it out in Memphis, but I think they definitely can do that if they make their shots.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, now that we're kind of like at the halfway point of the series, you guys want to look at each series and sort of give your prediction on who's
Yeah,
gonna pull them out?
let's do it.
All
Ryan,
right.
what do you think about the Suns and Mavericks series?
Yeah, kind of as I mentioned before, I think that the Suns definitely have the edge just because they're a 64 win team. Game 5 is a must win probably for the Suns. I would probably go with Suns in 6 or 7, probably Suns in 7 to win it there. But I do think that the Mavs have a chance, and maybe Game 7, Luka can go off, so it could go either way.
Yeah, how
Yeah,
about you, Rohan?
I think Suns in 7 as well. Although I'm kind of pulling for the Mavs because I'm kind of liking their underdog story and I'm kind of liking how they're playing as well. Like they're just a fun team to watch. The way they just shoot the ball at such a high clip. But I think ultimately, like with the experience that the Suns have, I don't think Chris Paul is going to have as many stinkers in a row, especially once they go back home. We know what he does in the fourth quarters typically. So, especially with their championship experience that they had last year, I don't see a way that they can really choke it this hard. And obviously having 2 games at home of the next 3, they are definitely in the driver's seat. So I would say Suns in 7 that they'll probably win game 5 and then Dallas probably win game 6 and then they'll pull it out in game 7. What do you think, Arv?
I'm gonna take the Mavericks in 7.
Oof.
Partly because both you and Ryan said that the Suns are gonna win it. Both your prediction were the Suns winning in 7. So I want to be a little different here. I'm gonna take the Mavericks 7. I feel like they have really good momentum going into Game 5 after winning games 2 and games 3 and 4. And I feel like if they can carry this momentum and steal one in Phoenix, then they could even win in 6 back in Dallas. But um, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely up for grabs this series, and it can go either way.
If the Mavericks do end up winning this series, we will be having chaos on NBA Twitter. That's all I'll say.
Definitely. Oh, definitely,
It'll be a fire on there.
definitely,
But yeah, all right. I mean, we're all looking forward to the rest of that series. It's super
for
exciting.
sure.
What about Heat Sixers tied at 2 apiece?
Ryan, what do you think about that one?
I mean, in my official bracket, which I posted on NBA.com before the playoffs, I had the Sixers winning this series, and then eventually winning the East before losing to the Warriors in the finals. But then going to this series, I kind of thought the Heat, because without Embiid, it was obviously going to be tough. But unlike the Mavs Sun series, I don't think that like the Heat are actually the better team. You look at them as like the 1 seed, but I was looking at it today, like the Heat only won 2 more games in the regular season than the Sixers did. So it's not
Yeah,
like they're this otherworldly team like the Suns are to the Mavs. And so I think the Sixers actually do have the advantage. So I'll say the Sixers in 7 games here because I just think the Embiid factor. I think he's just the best player in this series, even though Butler's had some great games in these last 2 games. But I definitely have Philly in 7 just because of the Embiid factor. He missed the last 2 games, or he missed the first 2 games rather, and then with him they're 2-0. So I think it's going to game 7, but I have Philly.
Yeah. I mean, I have the Heat in 7. I'm sticking with my pick that I made originally before the second round started. By the way, Arv, you kind of completely changed your pick from
yeah.
the
No, I changed it. I
Suns
changed it
Mavs.
completely.
You
Yeah, I
you
didn't.
had Suns in 5.
No, I didn't expect this at all from the Mavericks. Not gonna lie.
I had Suns in 6, so I just kind of extended the series a little bit. Um, but yeah, in this one, I'm keeping my pick, Heat in 7. I just think that the Heat they're built for the playoffs. I feel like they have the defense that can tighten up when the series is going in the 6th and 7th game when it's the fourth quarter. You have your lineup with what PJ Tucker, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and you could throw in Gabe Vincent or Max Strus or someone like that. Like that's just a lockdown starting 5, or 5 on the court. And I don't know if I fully trust the Sixers either, because I feel like what we've seen so far is a team feeding off of their home crowd a bit. And obviously Embiid has been huge in that. But I think the Sixers are gonna eventually have to win a game on the road, and the Heat have 2 of the next 3 at home. So that's why I'm gonna give the Heat just the slight edge, and to go along with sort of that playoff experience that they've had. They made a finals a couple years ago, and obviously have a championship coach in Eric Spoelstra. So that's why I'm gonna go with the Heat. Or what about you?
I'm gonna I think I'm gonna stick with my prediction from before the second round started, where I picked the Sixers to win in 6. I think they're either gonna win in 6 or 7, because I feel like they're just such a com- completely different team than they were in games 1 and 2 with Joel Embiid. Um, they're just him, Embiid, Harden, Maxi. It's like I feel like it could be a big three, and if Maxi plays like he did in the last game against the Heat. I mean, if Harden plays like he did in the last game against the Heat, then I feel like the Heat are in trouble, and the Sixers could easily win the next 2 games, no matter if it's in Miami or no matter if Game 5 is in Miami. They could win that game on the road, I feel like.
Okay, well, I'm the only one who picks the Heat, who are the 1 seed. But I mean, yeah.
They're barely the 1 seed. I mean, they're only 2 games ahead of the Sixers.
I mean,
They're right
they
with you.
have the home court, but who knows? It's anyone's series. Obviously, it's 2 apiece.
Yeah.
So, obviously, super exciting. All right, let's look at the next one. Celtics Bucks. Who do you guys got in this one?
Ryan, what do you think?
I mean, I've been flipping both ways. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, in my NBA bracket, I had the Nets beating both of these teams, but obviously that didn't happen. They got swept in the first round. So in this one, I'm gonna go actually Celtics in 7, because I think this one is big for Jason Tatum's legacy in this whole real core of like the Celtics big three with Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, and then Jaylen Brown. Because if they lose a series, it's kind of like they're the Utah Jazz, obviously to a lesser degree because I think they've had more playoff success. But Jason Tatum was talking about it on JJ Redick's podcast. Like a lot of people are talking about breaking up this big three and like adding another star with Jason Tatum. And I think they really need to pull out this series because they've been in the playoffs like the last 5 years and they just haven't been able to get it done in like the Eastern Conference Finals or the second round. So I think this really is their chance. Obviously, the Bucks won last year, but I think without Chris Middleton for this Milwaukee team, it would be a massive failure on the Celtics' part to not get it done. So I think it's going to go Game 7 in TD Garden. I think Tatum has a great performance, and I think the Celtics win.
Yeah,
Rohan, how about you?
I have the Bucks in 6. But I'd say like for the Celtics, like I don't completely agree that it would be a massive failure if they lost the series. I mean, they're still so young. Like that core of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum like isn't really going anywhere. Like both of them are locked into extensions with the team. Like, and they've had a bunch of playoff success like the last couple of years. Like they've made multiple conference finals. And I think earlier in the season, if they kind of stayed in that trajectory where they were like a 500 team, like I think then you really have serious questions. And if they were like a first round exit to the Nets, that would have been even worse because they were the 2 seed. And what they showed at the end of the regular season is that they were a contender in the East. So I think all in all, like to go out to the defending champions in the Bucks, like I think that's I don't think that's a really like a bad thing. I don't think it's a failure. I think they've definitely sort of held their end of the bargain and they've played an amazing series so far. And but yeah, either way, I think the Bucks are winning the series. I have them in 6. I that's what I picked initially in this before we started the second round. And I still think it's going to happen. I think Bucks just are. I think they're going to grab Game 5, and then come back to Milwaukee and close it out in Game 6. I just think Giannis is too dominant. I trust the Bucks as well. I don't trust that. I don't think Drew Holiday is going to go 5 for 22 in Game 5 or Game 6. I think once all their cylinders are going to be clicking and they shoot better from 3. I just think they're the more complete team on offense and defense. And more of the role players are going to start coming together as well. Bobby Portis didn't have a great game in this one as well. So I think in general, Bucks, what they showed in their wins is that they're still like a championship caliber team. So that's why I think I'm gonna pick them to go win at 6. Arv, what about you?
I'm gonna side with you, Rohan. I'm gonna take the Bucks as well. My initial prediction was the Bucks would win this series in 7, and I'm gonna stick with that. I just think, like you said, they're the more complete team. They won the NBA Finals last year. They have they have that championship mentality. They have that championship minded offense, championship minded defense. They have like arguably the best player in the world in Giannis. And then they have Drew, like you said, Drew Holiday is not going to shoot 5 of 22 again. And he's not, I feel like he's not going to get bullied by Marcus Smart again. He's obviously he's known as a great defender for a reason. And he's going to bounce back in Game 5. Giannis is going to probably play a great game in game 5, not shoot as poorly from the field as he was today, or in game 3, I think it was, or in game 2. And I think the Bucks are, although the Celtics are a great team, and they've been to multiple conference finals in the past few years. I think the Bucks, since they won, I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt, since they won the finals last year. I think they're going to pull it off in 7.
All right. Well, as like the other series, we got a good one in our hands. So game 5 is obviously going to be crucial. And it'll definitely be very physical and super tight. All right, let's look at the Grizzlies Warriors series now. What do you guys think is going to happen in this one with the Warriors up 3-1 now?
Ryan?
Well, I mean, I had Warriors in 6 going into this one. Obviously not knowing about Ja's availability, but just being like their franchise player and it being like a knee injury, he's like a hyper athletic player. I personally don't think he'll be in game 5. And I think the Warriors will bounce back, shoot a lot better than they did today. So I think the Warriors will close it out in 5, although it wouldn't shock me if Memphis got Ja back and they had a rejuvenation in game 5 and sent it back to Chase Center. But either way, I think the Warriors are winning this series. There's no way they're blowing a 3-1 lead. So I got Warriors in 5.
Arf.
I'm gonna agree with Ryan here. I feel like it doesn't matter what Ja's availability is. I think if he plays or if he doesn't play, I think the Warriors are definitely not going to shoot as poorly as they did in game 4. They're going to shoot way better. And if they shoot like they did in game 3, then they're going to wipe the Grizzlies, I feel like. But even if they just shoot normally and they play like their normal selves, with or without Ja, I feel like the Warriors can take this one in 5 or 6. The Grizzlies could take one at home. But I feel like they know how to play the Grizzlies. They've gotten used to that physical game. And I think they'll take this one. I think they'll take game 5 and win this series 4-1. How about you, Rohan?
Yeah, I had the Warriors in 6 initially. I still think that can happen. I still think the Grizzlies could have a big game at home in Memphis. And if Ja comes back, that'll obviously be a big push for them. And I think they'd probably win game 5 and then the Warriors would win in 6. But either way, I think the Warriors would probably win in 5 or 6. Either way, like they're going to win the series. So even if they drop the game in Memphis, it won't be a big deal. They'll just wrap it up at Chase Center. So I would probably say if Ja plays, it'll be in 6. But if Ja doesn't play, Warriors will win in 5 in Memphis.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's agreeable.
Yeah, I think we're all in consensus there.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that pretty much does it for our episode. Ryan, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, it was great being here discussing hoops with you guys, and I just think that the end of these second round matchups are going to be great. Obviously 3-2-2 series, and then the possibility of getting Ja back in the Warriors Grizz. So I think we're going to have some great playoff basketball. We'll definitely continue listening to the podcast with you guys.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we're definitely gonna have you as a guest in the future as well.
Yeah,
thank you.
Stay tuned for that. Appreciate the time, man. Thanks for coming on.
And thank you guys. Thank you so much to you guys for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode on the game 5s. We'll catch you guys later.